Editing your own videos does not have to be scary or even hard. If you know what to do and when to do it, you can start making video now, whether for YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever. So I'm gonna walk you through the entire video editing process from empty project to finished video so that you'll legally be a video editing master by the end of this thing. But before we can get into the fun editing stuff, we have to talk about pre-production and production, because this is where the video editing process really starts. Pre-production is the phase of your video where you're basically just planning your video. This is where you come up with the idea, write the script, scout your locations, you know, all the fun logistics stuff. But for editing purposes, you want to make sure that you have a shot list or at least general outline of all the footage you need to capture for your video. This obviously helps with recording, but it also ensures that once you turn that camera off and hop into your video editing program, that you do in fact have all the footage that you need. There's nothing more frustrating than starting your edit and realizing there is an entire shot that we just completely forgot to get. This is the fun part, or if you hate being in front of the camera, the worst part, because this is the recording phase. And there are a couple best practices you should follow here to make editing easier later. 1, record multiple takes. Trust me, editor, you will appreciate having options. There's nothing worse than being forced to use a take that you're not really sure if you like. Me personally, I like to have at least 2 usable takes of whatever I'm filming. So even if your first take feels perfect, or it took you forever to get one usable take and you're ready to move on, try for at least one more. I know, you can do it. 2, handles. Always leave about 3 to 5 seconds of breathing room before and after each take. These are called handles. That's why I said it 3 times. Those extra seconds give your equipment time to settle in case there was any movement, so we don't see any camera jitters or hear any audio cables moving. But they also give you a ton of flexibility in post to cut in and out of a take at the perfect moment, especially if you're using transitions. Because if you don't have that extra breathing room to use during transitions, it can look a little something like this. This is me filming a take without using handles. This is me using a take with using handles. 3, room tone. At the end of your recording session, make sure to record about 30 to 60 seconds of uninterrupted silence. That's your room tone, and it captures the natural silence and ambiance of the environment that you filmed in, which is gold for patching up any cuts or filling in any gaps in your audio when editing. But if you forgot, don't worry, because Descript can automatically apply room tone for you. And now we're finally at post-production, which means we have all this raw footage and now we have to actually edit the dang thing. First things first, you need to organize your footage. Is it boring? Yes. Is it essential? Absolutely. Now, every editor has their own system that works for them, but here's a simple one to get you started that you can elaborate on and change however you see fit. In your file explorer, create a main folder for your project, then add 2 subfolders, one for video and one for audio. Put all your footage in their corresponding folders, and now is the fun part, renaming them. Now, based on the type of video you're making, some naming conventions might work better than others, but a basic one you can follow is something like this. Just make sure that whatever you go with is consistent across your entire project and doesn't contain any spaces or special characters to maximize compatibility. Once renamed, mirror the same folder structure in Descript and import your footage. This part can be pretty tedious, but trust me, it'll make your editing experience so much smoother, especially if you're collaborating with other people or if you need to jump back into the project in the future. But alright, now that our footage is nice and organized, we can actually start to edit. It's about time. Now keep in mind, I'm gonna be doing all this editing manually, but for any step in this process, you can always use our AI tools or Underlord to handle the harder or more tedious parts of your edit. Now, just like file organization, every editor has their own editing workflow that works best for them. So my workflow isn't the end-all be-all of editing videos, but me personally, I like to edit my videos using phases. And the first phase is the rough cut, which is basically a bare bones version of your final video. First, I'll make a new composition and add in all of my raw A-roll. And if I recorded my audio separately, I'll make a sequence to sync it to my video. Then I'll add any touch-ups like color grading or audio processing, and I'll shorten all the word gaps. Now this is my raw composition. It's a master reference that contains all my raw footage that I can pull from if I want to recover a take that I cut out later. So now I'll duplicate this composition and rename it to be my rough cut composition. I'll go through and cut out any dead space, delete all the filler and retakes, and speed up the pacing. And quick tip for finding your best take, always start with watching your last take instead of the first and work backwards from there, since chances are your last take is gonna be your best one. Or if when you're recording you feel really good about a take you just did, just tell the camera, use that take. So later on in editing, you don't have to find your best take, you can just immediately see which one is your favorite. As I'm cutting up my footage, I'm also making sure to add placeholders for B-roll or other graphics, and adding notes for any video effects or sound design I wanna add in later. And okay, now that I have my rough cut done, it's time for my next phase, picture lock. And this is the phase where I finalize all the visuals of my video. This is where I go through and add in all of my B-roll, graphics, titles, screen recordings, visual effects. If you can see it on screen, it gets refined and finalized here. I'll also want my pacing to be finalized in this phase. Now, pacing can vary depending on what kind of video you're making, but generally you want to avoid slow pacing, which can make it a lot harder to sit through your video. And a great way to do that is to make sure all your cuts are seamless and quick. So I'll go into my timeline and remove all this little dead air before and after my cut. This may seem small, but it makes a world of difference to your pacing. Question that they feel like they need to stay and have answered. For example, maybe you got a wild story with a crazy twist ending. Question that they feel like they need to stay and have answered. For example, maybe you got a wild story with a crazy twist ending. And all right, now that our picture lock is finished, we have half of our video done. And now we can move on to our final mix. Your final mix is essentially the audio lock of your video. This is where you add in and finalize all of your sound design. Now, we already have a video on sound design that'll be linked in the description if you want a deeper dive, but this phase is essentially where you want to add in all your music and sound effects and ensure everything is at proper, comfortable audio levels for the viewer. It's recommended to wear headphones if you can, and make sure your computer volume is consistent throughout this entire phase. I like to set my volume to about 80-ish% and leave it there until I'm done with my final mix. I can use the stock panel to look for music and sound effects, and use the timeline to line them up and add fades where needed. To adjust the levels of my audio, I'll make sure it's selected and go to the Properties tab. And alright, now that my final mix is done, I have a completed video ready to post. All that's left for me to do is export. But before I export, I wanna make sure I do one last final pass of my video. So I'll watch the entire thing from beginning to end, making sure I'm happy with the final result and making any last minute changes. And okay, now I'm ready to export. So I'll go to the export tab and I have a few options. Here I can choose what format I wanna export my video in, and here I can choose my export destination. I'll stick with a Descript web link so I can easily share it to other collaborators. I can fine tune the rest of my settings if I want, and that's it. I'm officially done. So congratulations, my friend, you now know how to edit a video from start to finish. Here's a little celebratory Descript placard for you that you can't take because this is a video and this is not tangible. Now, all these phases can get pretty time consuming based on how long or intricate your edit is, so it is absolutely essential that you incorporate breaks into your editing sessions. I like to set a timer for about an hour, and once that hour is up, I take a little 10-minute break to get away from my desk and stretch, get a snack, go outside, just kind of reset the brain a little bit. These breaks are not only important for your overall health, but nonstop editing for long periods of time can really drain your productivity and creativity, increase burnout, and just overall leave you with a worse final video. So make sure that you're taking breaks. Both you and your video will be better off because of it. But all right, now you are a video editing master and you can edit all of my videos for me, so I don't have to. And if there's anything in this video that you want a deeper dive on, head over to our help center where you can really get into the nitty-gritty on every single feature in Descript. While you're doing that, I have to stay here and edit this video, so bye, I guess.